Whether it's 17 tubes of Pringles or a mother stealing baby formula, it feels like there is a new story about shoplifting every day at the moment. In England and Wales, there are more than 430,000 offences recorded last year, the highest figure since records began 20 years ago. And while some are driven by desperation, others are taking advantage of what's seen as decriminalisation of petty theft. So, if you saw someone stealing food, what would you do? Would you assume that they were part of a gang stealing to sell on the black market or trying to feed their family? Would you report it, or do you think that that's pointless? 0207 862 2222 is the number to give us a ring. Narinder, how do you feel about this? If you were doing your weekly shop, bi-weekly, whatever, and you saw someone stealing some food, what would you do?
Well, I have seen that, actually. I was in a supermarket a few months ago and I saw a guy and he's with these two little kids and I saw him putting bread and milk in his carrier bag. I turned away. I think it's completely OK. I think I would never report it. I think what is criminal, I don't think that's criminal. I think actually ask yourself, why have we got a first world country where people are having to steal bread and milk to feed their kids? That's criminal. It's not criminal to be starving. And what you have to do when you're starving is feed yourself or feed your children. Then you do whatever it takes. And I don't think that's criminal. You have to look at this morally. You're shaking your head.
I'm shaking my head. Yeah, I am horrified.
You're horrified.
I'm actually horrified by that answer.
What you should be horrified is that we have starving families in this country. That's what you should be horrified.
Did you ask them?
Starving to the point.
Did you ask them why? Did you ask them why they were taking that stuff? No, you don't know the answer. So
I don't need to stand there and say, why are you taking that stuff, as if I'm on some kind of moral high horse. I can assume quite correctly he's starving.
As an advanced nation, we have a lot of protection measures, and the only area where I would agree with you is I don't want to see people starving. I don't want to see people having to sleep rough. I don't want to see people not being helped if they genuinely need it. So setting that aside, it is absolutely wrong. Full stop. I don't care whether you're starving or anything else. It is absolutely wrong to steal, full stop. And if we have people who have to steal, there must be better ways in which, first of all, we shouldn't have a decriminalisation and say, well, if you are nicking anything under the 200 quid, get it away. Because ultimately, you're going to end up paying. You're paying because the store is going to be losing money. The store has to put on extra security.
If it's like stores like supermarkets and things like that who are already actually robbing us as well.
What?
Yes. They overinflated.
Have you seen relative prices compared to other places?
Profits. Have you seen the profits supermarkets have made during lockdown? They hiked up their prices. So actually, who are the real criminals here? Is it someone stealing bread and milk to feed their family, or is it supermarkets and shops hiking their prices? The profit supermarkets are making.
OK, but you're talking about big brand supermarkets here. Now, not all thefts are happening at these.
And a lot of them happen at corner stores and small shops.
My family have a corner shop.
Exactly.
My family
so
have
how would you respond? So somebody comes along and they look as if you just give them food? And just say, take what you want?
No, we don't just give them food, but actually we do have theft, and somebody will take ice cream, they'll take a couple of cans of pop, they take chocolates, they take what they can. We can't stop them all, and we do try to stop that. Yeah, however, that's stealing from small businesses. You've got to look at, are they stealing bread and milk from a supermarket?
It makes it OK?
Absolutely makes it OK. Absolutely makes it OK, because people... James,
genuinely
have you ever been starving?
Regularly.
Have you struggled?
Look at me.
Have you struggled to pay your bills?
Yes, I regularly struggle to pay bills.
Right, and you've been starving in your life.
I haven't been starving.
So
if
you've never been starving, you will never know what it is to have to steal to feed your family.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
I have compassion for that. I don't think it should be criminal.
Narinder actually makes a good point here that just in the sense that we're all talking here as very privileged people that haven't been in this situation. So if for a moment, James, we can put ourselves in that situation where we don't have any money in the bank, we have children to feed, you've got your dogs to feed, we've got things that we care about that we really need to make sure are safe. Would you, in desperation, in that state, steal?
No, because there are ways and means in which you can get help. So, for example, we have food banks, we have charities, we have a state system, and it may not necessarily pay enough, and it may not allow people to allow ends to meet, and there are real problems with it, and I get it, and I understand that people say, oh, you're so disconnected. I'm not disconnected. I know how much stuff costs. No, I know how much stuff costs, but if you are advocating that businesses which are commercial, trying to keep people in their jobs, they do pay a lot of money into the system. Tesco, for example, the biggest ratepayer in in the country.
Yeah.
They pay a huge amount of tax. They will also pay tax on all those wages and VAT and all sorts of other things that they are paying into that system. The least we can do is expect that their business
look after them. Look after them.
No, it's not
as opposed to actually looking after
what you're saying
family,
is disgusting.
a mother.
No. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No.
You would snitch on her. The question is, will you snitch on someone? That's actually the question here.
Yes.
Are you going to see a mother nicking formula milk or stealing whatever, bread and milk, whatever? You're going to snitch on her. I think that's disgraceful. No, I think how would you live with yourself and sleep at night?
I live with myself very well on the basis
never.
that we have rules, we have laws in this country.
We also have governments that aren't looking after
but I'm sorry.
less well off.
Okay, so you've told me that I'm disconnected, and you'll say
we are privileged.
You're privileged.
Right.
So
we're very privileged.
Okay, so what do you pay your tax for? You pay your tax to make sure that people who are less fortunate than
and
yourself...
And the government aren't doing it. You're trusting the government to do that, and they're clearly not doing it.
So just open up the doors...
If I'm paying my taxes for a government that are looking after people...
You just open up the doors of a store and say, it's OK to nick stuff.
No, I'm not saying
that's
that, but
horrific.
if you have to, I think it trumps it.
OK, I'm going to call. Thank you very much, guys. Dave from Staffordshire, where do you stand on shoplifting? And we're not talking about people going in armed and assaulting staff. We're talking about you've seen someone slipping something into their bag, some sort of food item. What do you do?
Well, I was a large store manager, so it happened both ways for me. Customers would tell me if other customers had stolen something, and vice versa. These days, both me and my wife worked in retail, and we inform the shop staff quite often when there's only a couple of them on at night. We inform the shop staff what's going on and assist if required. The gone are the days when I rugby tackle on the car park.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, Narinder's made a point, and I've got to put the other side to that, and the fact that unfortunately 3 jobs I didn't enjoy doing before I retired was I went and closed stores down, and I had to go to close the stores down purely because theft had become out of control. One store I can quote, it was Cheetham Hill, and there were lovely members of staff, and I had to make them redundant, and that was all because of shoplifting.
What would you say to that, Narinder? That's people losing their jobs to feed their families?
Well, I think that possibly they needed more security there in the store. You know, if there's people sitting because they can. You know, it's too easily available for them. So maybe you need, Dave, I don't know, is it a security issue? I mean, look, I don't want any business.
Just undermined
I don't want
argument.
any business. I don't want any business to have to close down. They're smaller businesses.
No. Oh, so
is this a small business?
It doesn't make it right. I think this is the problem here. That if we had better ways, and I agree with you that we need to have proper systems to make sure. I don't want to see, as I said, anybody in this country starving or any shape or form. And yes, we are.
And they are.
We are fortunate, whatever. Well, they may be, but this is the issue. But if you're looking at companies and you're saying to companies, you've got to pay tax, you've got to do this, you've got to pay your staff properly, you've got to do it, then just allowing people to take stuff. And I'm afraid that for every person who takes stuff who is in genuine need, there are a whole load of other people who are doing it then to order, and they're doing it repeat because they can get away with it, and we're making the problem worse.
There's a slight difference in the argument there. We're not saying that it is allowed to shoplift. What we're asking is, if you are there as a civilian, would you do anything? With the knowledge as well that police aren't really doing anything about petty theft at the
It is slightly pointless to say anything, and it's also slightly pointless. I certainly wouldn't address or accost the person themselves. I would say to the staff, do you know? And then they can deal with it in their own way. I certainly don't want to see us turn into vigilantes and start to take people on. You don't know if they're carrying a knife. You don't know if they've got other problems.
I wouldn't take people on, but I also definitely wouldn't snitch on them or put them in. I wouldn't.
Dave, thank you very much for your call. Dennis from Portsmouth.
Storm.
Hi.
Hello there.
Hi, what's your thoughts? What would you do if you saw someone stealing at a supermarket?
Well, I wouldn't assume they were actually stealing at that second. To me, shoplifting isn't shoplifting till they walk out the door.
That's an interesting point, actually. So if you see someone putting something in their bag, you wouldn't tell, because actually what could happen is they go to the self-serve, take it out their bag, scan it and put it back in.
There's a possibility. I've done it myself, actually, but... last year, I went to a busy co-op in Portsmouth, frequented by tourists, and I walked out with a bar of chocolate unintentionally. I took the chocolate, walked out to the bus stop outside, began consuming it. And so, wait a minute, I didn't pay for this.
Oh, Dennis,
So I really
I've done
went
that.
back
I've actually
inside.
done that. Dennis, I've done that too. I swear to God, I've walked out and thought, oh my God, I've not paid. It's terrible because then...
And then you think it's TV's Narinder Kaur and she could get into terrible trouble.
So Dennis, what did you do? Did you go back and pay?
I did, yes.
Oh,
So
Dennis,
how
you
do-
see,
I mean,
the honesty.
We do. We need more people like you, Dennis, I think.
I don't see it's not my business to report on anybody. I'm not an expert.
I think that's fair enough. But what do we do about the rising incidence of shoplifting? You don't want to tackle it yourself, Dennis. I appreciate that. I understand. But
Well,
what do we
to
do?
me, the majority of customers are not shoplifting, I would guess.
But
so
a lot
I wouldn't
are,
do
and-
anything about it.
Well, a lot are shoplifting, and that means that the prices rise for those that are not, and that isn't very fair, is it?
Well, it doesn't bother me that much, really, but the price rise. But
Oh, Dennis,
Got
you're
his
too
pension.
forgiving. But you
He's
see,
got his
here's one thing.
pension.
Dennis, can I ask you, do you use the self-checkout tills?
no, because I'm not that
Good. Yeah.
dexterous at it now.
You see,
Because I've got my problems. One is confusion at tills, you know.
Well, we've all got that, you see, and part of the problem, I think, and this is where Narinder and I might agree, is that if supermarkets stop with this obsession of making everything automated so that there are no people around, people might nick less stuff. So I take the view that if they really want to tackle it, it's kind of a combination. I don't think we
more
should
staff.
tolerate it. I do think there's an argument for more staff,
Yeah.
and I do think there's an argument for more security, and I do think the police need to take more action. But we as a society need to stop being so tolerant about it.
Dennis, well, that's you told by James. Thank you very much for your call.
Poor Dennis.
I hope that chocolate bar was worth
I love
it.
Dennis.
Trisha from Glasgow, what would you do if you saw someone slipping something into their bag?
First of all, can I just say that Narinder, Linda, the lady on the show, Narinder, she lives in the real world.
Okay.
She absolutely lives in the real world. I've seen it. I've seen it before so many times. People stealing in shops. I won't mention them. I'm not allowed. And I can see what Narinder said about it being baby milk, about it being baby food, about it being nappies, about it being baby wipes. I've seen it so many times, and I would never, ever go and snitch on that female or male for that matter.
So you just turn a blind eye. Okay, I completely appreciate your point on that one, Tricia, but what if it was somebody stealing 10 steaks then?
You know, now I'm judging, right? I'm judging now because I'm streetwise, I'm a Glaswegian, so I can look at somebody and I know why they're stealing.
Ooh.
I know why they are.
Ooh.
Tricia, that is a tough one, isn't it? Because I'm not sure any of us can just look at somebody and judge why they're stealing.
Well,
that person might have 10 children.
Well, all right then. All right, I'll take that one back. Right, I really will.
Tricia, you're very accommodating.
Failed at the first chance.
I like Tricia because she's changing her opinion. She's an action.
Yeah, I better kind of withdraw that comment. But what I told your producer was only last week I went into one of the cheaper supermarkets, and as you know, when you get into a supermarket, you've got the fruit and veg. That's the first thing you hit.
Yep.
And a lad came in and he took a banana, one banana.
Okay.
And then he was trying to get out the entrance, so he was getting really, really agitated until someone came in, and then he ran out. Someone told the security that lad took a banana. And can you believe security were running around that car trying to get that lad?
Do you know what? The most shocking thing is the security ran out. I saw 3 teenagers leaving a supermarket with cans of Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever it was that they stole, and they ran out, and the security guard just watched them. did absolutely nothing about it. I think a lot of the time that's what they're directed to do. Tricia, thank you very much for your call. Thanks for all your calls on this. We're going to have to... we're actually going to take more calls, I think, after the break, so keep them coming in. OK, we're taking your calls on more calls on whether you would report shoplifting. We did it in the last part. There was some wonderful calls. So if you saw someone stealing food, what would you do? Would you assume that they were part of a gang, like selling on in the black market, or would you, or perhaps even just trying to feed their family? Would you feel that reporting it was pointless? Are the police going to do anything about it? Or would you report them and see that as your civic duty? 0207 862 2222 is the number to give us a ring. We'll go right back to the calls now, and we're going to speak to Brian in Newport. Brian, what would you do? Have you ever seen this?
I agree with the lady that was on the phone just before the break. And I do believe there's something being missed here. There's lots of foreign gangs over here doing all of these things and getting away with it. What they should be done is, once they're caught, they should be marched off to the airport and sent back to wherever they come from.
Okay.
And it's like, you're
making a huge assumption there.
Foreign gangs. Why are you saying foreign? There's a lot of British-born gangs that steal as well. You've gone straight for foreign. I mean, why?
Why? Because there are groups of foreign... You know yourself there's groups of foreign gangs doing it.
I actually don't.
Brian, do you mind me asking where you're getting those statistics from? Because I personally haven't seen them.
Come on, we're not... You're not that silly.
But Brian, here's the problem with the argument. I'm sure that there are foreign gangs, and I'm sure that there are people who have come from overseas and they're responsible. But I dare say that the vast majority is born and bred British people who are stealing, because we have a police force that seems to think that £200 is a limit, and under that they're not going to go and investigate it. So I don't care whether it's an organised gang because they're running drugs. I don't care whether it's an organised gang because they came from overseas, and I don't care if it's a chance or anybody else. If somebody's caught shoplifting, they should be picked up, sorted out, prosecuted and done, and we shouldn't tolerate it. And we shouldn't be picking out people just because they might be foreign.
It's not that they might be foreign. When you see people, they're taking really expensive stuff and lots of it, perfumes and things like that, and then you interview them and they end up saying, I can't speak English, I don't know this. And they are a gang, you know that, I know that.
But do you do that, Brian? Do you stop people? Are you a security guard?
He says you see them
No, I'm not a security guard, but I would tell on people like that.
OK, and also, were you interviewing them in the police station?
He said he saw.
Well, when they take them down and they interview them at the shop, first of all, and they start saying, oh, I can't speak English, I can't do this, I can't
Brian,
do that.
Where are you seeing these tapes? I'm not getting the source of all your information.
On the television.
I said he's saying on the telly.
Shoplifters caught red-handed on that.
Okay.
And you see them and they're pulled into a room and then let go.
OK, all right, Brian. But OK, so you think that if anyone commits a crime in this country and they're a foreign citizen, they're a citizen somewhere else, they should just be sent back to the country that they come from?
Exactly, yeah.
OK, fine. I'm not sure that would solve a shoplifting problem.
Brian, let me ask you a question. If they're not foreign and they're British-born thieves, what is your suggestion? What's your solution for them? Send them back to their house?
Well, if they're British, they should be dealt with the British courts,
right? We're getting somewhere.
But if they're foreign, if they've come over...
Forget the foreign, let's just talk about... Let's forget about foreign, because we're getting on a different topic.
I think we are slightly, Brian, getting derailed here, but I do appreciate your call all the same. Thank you. Colleen from Kent, what's your view when it comes to shoplifters stealing food here? We should probably say the main things that are stolen are things like cheese, meat, perfume, sweets, jewellery, accessories and makeup. Not essential items.
Makeup really is essential.
Anyone who steals, if you see them stealing, you should report them. It's wrong.
OK, it may be wrong.
Ultimately, the customer in the shop is going to be the bearer of that burden. They're going to have to pay more at the counter. But it is fundamentally wrong to steal. And in this day and age, with the welfare system we have in this country, there is absolutely no need to steal to feed your children.
Spot on.
But, Colleen, obviously people are having to steal formula milk, nappies,
jewellery,
they're
perfume,
Colleen, they're clearly
steaks,
having to steal bread, milk, formula milk, nappies.
If they're stealing to feed their children, they're spending their money on the wrong things.
We don't know that, though.
Okay, but
you don't know that for a fact.
But Colleen,
in this country, if you're stealing to feed your children, you're spending your money on the wrong thing.
Okay, that might be true. We do have a cost of living crisis, so lots of people's money is going on their electricity and their rent and all of those sorts of things. But I take your point. Well, but why should their children suffer, Colleen? Even if their parents are spending all their money on all the wrong things, let's say it's cigarettes and, TV stuff and whatever, nonsense, why should their children suffer?
But their children won't suffer if they spend their money on the right things. Their children wouldn't suffer.
But they're not spending it, Colleen. Yes, maybe they are. Maybe they are spending it on the wrong things, as you're saying.
Yeah, but then children
are starving.
Yeah, the children are starving.
So are you saying that then they're buying the bread and milk or whatever, biscuits, then you're saying you're going to snitch them in for stealing, what, £3.50's worth of stuff, and they're going to get a criminal record for stealing about £4 worth of goods? £4?
Of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course,
I'm with Colleen because
you're very privileged, Colleen. You don't seem to have any compassion for people who are hungry.
What?
People are hungry.
I beg your pardon.
So where's
your pardon?
Yes, I beg your pardon. Where's your compassion for people?
I'm a 73-year-old pensioner.
Right.
I brought up 3 children and I helped raise 4 grandchildren.
And that's fantastic.
And we've never stolen to feed any of us.
But
Colleen,
were they ever starving?
No, sorry, Narinder, this is nonsense. I'm sticking up for Colleen. Colleen, you're absolutely right. You've done the right thing. You're working on the basis that people should do the right thing. You're working on the basis that people shouldn't steal, and that's where we start from. And the thing is that I think you're absolutely right, Colleen, that if somebody is not able in this country to be able to afford the very...
They're not able because they can't afford...
Because they're spending it on the wrong things.
No, because they can't afford their rent, they can't afford their mortgage, they can't afford anything. You're living in this la-la land that they're all able to afford things.
Colleen, if we take this a step forward, you've seen someone stealing food, they've put it in their bag, you've told a shop assistant. What do you think the likelihood is of the police coming to do something about that?
Well, the police may not actually turn up at the shop, will actually do something. I've reported somebody when I was in Sainsbury's on one occasion for just loading shopping into her bag rather than into her trolley. And the shopkeeper came along and put her goods through the till himself.
OK, what sort of things was she stealing?
She was stealing shampoos, conditioners, alcohol.
How do you know it was stealing? Because you're allowed to put it in your bag until you get to the till. Some people use their own bags.
She didn't go to the till. They stopped her on the other side of the till.
She left.
And I think that
she was leaving without putting her stuff through the till. She attempted to leave through the self-checkout, and the store stopped her.
Colleen, thank you very much. It does get a little bit tricky to defend when it is things like alcohol that are essential items, jewellery and cheese, although cheese is very good. Colleen, thank you very much for your call. Richard from Worcestershire, what's your view when it comes to shoplifting? Would you turn a blind eye or would you report it? Oh, Richard, we've just lost you. We're going to try and get you back. Robert from Somerset then, I'll put that question to you.
Thank you. Yes, hello.
Hi.
They should be prosecuted. I was the chairman of a 30-shop precinct in Bristol. We had 4 shops in Bristol, and every precinct was affected by the kids shoplifting. If you retaliated, you'd get reprisals. They would spike your roof to call you a new roof on a fully repairing lease. It cost you a fortune. They would smash your windows. They would glue your locks up. I've noticed in the past young men getting caught. Police had them in the van. Kids came from everywhere, rocked that van from side to side, and made the police let them go. Your back was against the wall all the time. And I don't honestly think the young lady on your panel has a clue how some people are perhaps feeding a drug habit, and that's why they're stealing.
But then
it mounts up.
Robert, therefore, this government, this country needs to help people who need, if they've got addictions, therefore they need help.
There is no poverty in this country.
Okay, Robert, there
poverty.
definitely is poverty in this
is.
country. There's a quarter of children in Scotland are living in poverty, and similar statistics across the country. I just don't know what the exact ones are. So there definitely is poverty. But you make a good point, actually. If somebody is stealing because they're funding an addiction, Narinder, actually you could be doing them a kindness by telling the security guard, getting the police involved,
giving them a criminal record. You're not helping them at all.
Maybe getting them some rehabilitation.
That's not going to get them rehabilitation. The police aren't going to give them rehabilitation.
I'm sorry, if
the
somebody...
police are going to give them a criminal record, and you're going to prosecute them, and you're just actually adding to their problems in their life.
That's such a nonsense. Yeah, seriously, there are so many flaws.
That's not a nonsense.
There's so many flaws in the argument that you put forward, that you're encouraging people to steal. You're not encouraging people to get help when they need it. You're not trying to put... You're
not encouraging helping people who are starving.
Of course I am.
It trumps... If you've never been starved, you're in such a privileged position to sit there judging.
Don't come up with that nonsense.
You're judging people.
So you live round the corner from me in London, and you're trying to tell me that I'm in some shape like weirdly removed from you that I don't understand and you do.
I'm also privileged.
Okay, good. Well, let's not go down that road, because you...
No, I'm also privileged.
I have the privilege.
But I have the ability to have compassion for those with less well-off than me.
And at what stage have I not demonstrated?
We've managed to invite neighbours onto the show.
I'm sorry, but this is... Seriously, I would be shouting across the garden fence at you to stop talking rubbish.
Come for a cup of tea, James.
OK, Baljit from
Can you afford it?
Baljit, just quickly checking here. You don't live next to these two, do you? Baljit.
Hello.
Hi there. You don't live next to Narinder or James, do you?
Where do they live?
No, don't tell me where you live. I just want... Never mind.
Yeah.
What do you think about shoplifting?
Okay, so I'm in the middle. I'm a little bit with Narinder, where I do agree. People need to have compassion for people as to why they are shoplifting.
Mm-hmm.
People generally, when they are shoplifting for food to feed their families, aren't in the right state of mental health. They're going through emotions of thinking about putting food on the table for their children. They put what they morally might think is right second.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to feed their children. Yeah, we have got food banks and stuff like that. There are things available for people to go to, but a lot of it comes down to people who are embarrassed about meeting people that they might know within their community. Not everyone has come from poverty that need to use food banks. Some people have great jobs. They hit redundancy or lose their job for whatever reason. I've been in a situation where I've had to think twice about, do I get to work or do I put food on the table for my children? And I think in those situations, maybe if I saw someone stealing bread or milk, I wouldn't report it. But if I saw them stealing something more substantial, which is for entertainment or other things, then maybe I would report that.
I think the difficulty is then we're making judgment calls on what is acceptable and not acceptable to steal, but I appreciate your call. Sorry, excuse me to call.
Baljit made some really good points there, some excellent points.
But I agree with the whole compassion point, and I also understand that the stigma, and I've interviewed people from food banks and people who've used food banks and all these sorts of things, and I get it, by the way, and I genuinely understand, and I also understand the cost of living crisis. It's something that, you know, we've been covering and I've covered every single day, and I speak to people every single day, and it's heartbreaking when you hear some of these stories. But I just don't think that the right solution is to almost OK and put the green light up, because you're just pushing the problem elsewhere. You're not dealing with the problem. And I like to deal with the cause of the problem. I don't like to deal with, you know, just kind of let stuff go.
It just feels like at the moment when it comes to shoplifting, we're neither dealing with the causes or the problem.
Correct.
Baljit, thank you very much for your call. Richard from Worcestershire, we got you back just in time. What's your thoughts?
Hi there. Well, what a can of worms this one is, isn't it?
I know, it's not been a quiet day, no.
Yeah.
Richard, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. Right, my thoughts are, with regards to the original question, was would I report somebody for shoplifting? I don't condone shoplifting, but I think we all have a degree of intelligence that we can see if someone, we can look at someone and see if they're stuffing half a dozen bottles of whiskey into a bag, then clearly that's not, you know, to feed their family, is it? I would potentially, I would make the store staff may be aware and let them make their own decision. Like I say, I don't condone it. Narinder, I am completely with you on this one. Sorry, James, I agree with some of the things that you've said, but...
hang on a second, Richard. Richard, you just said... No, Richard just said...
James's ego.
Richard just said that he would tell the store person that somebody was nicking stuff, which is exactly what I said.
Yes.
And I also had an element of compassion. Okay. So what else? You can't agree with Narinder. She's talking nonsense.
But I do like the fact that, Richard, you think you have to take sides in this debate. But thank you very much for your call. Thanks for all your calls on this.
I think Richard's just trying to ingratiate himself.
Right, after the break.